Forging cybersecurity Secure Ninja.
Hey everyone, I'm Alicia Webb with SecureNinjaTV, and I'm here at RSA 2014 in San Francisco, the last day of the show, on the show floor, speaking with Grayson Milbourne. He is the Security Intelligence Director for Webroot. How are you today, Grayson?
I'm doing great. This conference is always one of the best of the year, and I'm really happy to be here.
I know, bigger and better than ever before. It's been so much fun.
It's amazing that every year they seem to outdo themselves.
I know, right?
Indeed.
Tell me a little bit about Webroot. What do you guys do?
So Webroot's a really innovative company, and what we're aiming to do is really change the face of internet security by providing a cloud-hosted intelligence-based model that also leverages a collective intelligence model. And so that's really to say that all of our users are contributing to our intelligence gathering process, which is really important because it allows us to see what each individual user of Webroot's technology is encountering, but also to be able to leverage that in a collective manner to see what's really popular versus what's really unique. But ultimately, it ensures that we never miss a threat. Nothing slips through the cracks. If you're using our software and you've encountered a threat, we're collecting enough data about that threat to make a rapid classification.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of threats slipping through the cracks, I know one of the biggest things in the news recently has been the Target and Neiman Marcus breach, over the last few months. I know you know a bit about this topic.
Yeah,
so.
Certainly, and it's very concerning because when you really look at some of the finer details of the Target breach, what's been uncovered is that the initial compromise of credentials that gained access into their network took place on November 15th, and then just about 3 weeks later, the credit card stealing attack took place. And so that then took place from November 27th through the 15th of December, which is nearly 3 weeks. And so that really begs the question, well, how could Target, being a gigantic number 2 retailer in the United States, processing millions of transactions every day, how could they be so unaware that their network had been compromised? And the reality is Target's not really that not that different when you look at other companies that have been compromised, like Neiman Marcus. But even outside of the major retail chains, you look at hotels, you look at hospitals, pretty much anywhere that large-scale financial transactions take place, there's a clear focus by cybercriminals to compromise those environments. And when we start looking at those compromises, the trend is that the network is breached, the attack takes place, but the retailer has no idea that the attack occurred, and it's often a third party that's informing them. In the case of Target, this was the U.S. government said, hey, look, we've connected the dots, and you're the common denominator here. You need to check your environment. And once they were informed, they were able to identify that, oh, yes, indeed, we have been compromised.
Right.
So, the big problem here is, well, how did it take over a month for them to really recognize that this has taken place, and how come they weren't able to identify it themselves? And there really lies the problem, is that most retailers who are do payment card transactions apply to or conform to a standard which is known as PCI DSS, which is the payment card industry's data security standards.
Right.
And it really spells out 12 different sections of what do you need to do to comply to keep credit card transaction data safe. Now, of course, Target is PCI DSS compliant, but that didn't protect them from this type of attack. And when you really dig into that document, you realize that instead of it telling you specifically what functionality needs to exist in your security solutions, it's more of a wide covering of saying, well, you need to have a firewall to protect your network perimeter, you need to install software on each individual endpoint to protect against malware, but they don't really talk about the capability of these applications. And so it sort of puts Target in a situation where they trust the technology that PCI suggests that they have. But the problem is that not all technology is equal. And in a case of a very targeted attack, no pun there with targeted,
yeah,
but right. In a case of a very focused attack, a solution's ability to block an infection becomes sort of irrelevant, because a very targeted attack is going to use a piece of malware that's never been seen in the wild. So its very first exposure is going to be when it attacks your environment. And so traditional AV technology is very ill-prepared to deal with those types of threats, because they're really focusing on being able to block that threat up front. But if they miss the opportunity to block that attack, they don't really have well, what's next? How long till we identify that we missed the attack? Did we alert the system administrators that, hey, something is new in your network and something, you need to take a look at? So while I can't say which application Target was using, I know that after a month, it hadn't realized that something had slipped through. And so this is sort of where Webroot's approach is really well prepared for today's types of attacks, very targeted attacks, not talking about modern malware for the masses, but malware for you.
Right.
And so what our technology is again very good at is that every one of our endpoints acts as a sensor node, and we have over 8 million of these sensors around the globe, ranging from consumer endpoints to mobile endpoints to corporate endpoints. And so in the case of Target, if they were using technology like Webroot's, while we may not have blocked the attack up front because it would have been our first encounter, we would have at least seen the attack, and we would have collected data about it, where our researchers would have identified it as a threat, and certainly 4 weeks would not have gone by before this massive scale attack was executed.
Right, early detection is key.
Early detection is key.
Theoretically, other companies could be, attacked as we speak and not even know about it.
Right, and if you look at the Neiman Marcus case, that initial compromise happened in June, was discovered in October, but customers weren't informed of the compromise until December. And that really puts consumers at risk because, how are they supposed to know that their data was compromised?
Right.
I know at least in the case of Target, they revealed that the breach had happened as soon as they discovered it. And I, for one, have already received an email, or I think I actually got a piece of snail mail from my bank saying, hey, your credit card was part of the Target breach. It's going to be canceled in 14 days. That is actually while I'm here at RSA, so very convenient for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right, and that they'll send me a new card. But it's certainly a big problem. And looking at statistics over the last year, the vast majority of corporate compromises, the attack ends up going undetected for months, if not longer.
Right.
And so that really shows there's a large gap in awareness, and that's driven by the security products that are designed to defend against these attacks.
Yeah.
The trust is being put into those applications. Those applications aren't capable of recognizing when they've missed something.
Right.
And so we look at that as that's where the lack of awareness is stemming from. Mm-hmm. And so our technology is really wrapped around rapid identification of new and emerging malware, knowing that you can't be 100% at blocking something, but it's very important to recognize when you've missed it and have a quick turnaround to be able to identify that threat.
Absolutely.
Very much so.
Now, there's also another incident last week with the Apple iOS update and then a patch afterwards.
Sure. So, it's interesting that Apple isn't represented at this conference. I don't know if they feel that security isn't something that they're involved with, but, these are computers. They all function under some of the same principles. They all collect a lot of data. And with Apple, it was a pretty damaging attack because it attacked the SSL communications between Apple devices and web servers. And so being able to decrypt that encrypted transaction allows you to sort of see exactly what's going on, whether that's passwords or, account credentials or financial transaction data, that was able to be decrypted. And another issue with the Apple attack is that they released the patch in two different stages. So the exploit impacted both iOS and OS X. They released the iOS patch last Thursday, I believe, but they didn't release the OS X patch until this coming Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Additionally, when they released the OS X patch, they released it as part of a larger OS X Mavericks update, which included a lot of other functionality beyond just fixing the SSL flaw, including things like updates to FaceTime. And unfortunately, that patch ended up being 460 megabytes. And so, that's a large patch, especially if you have a corporate environment that supports OS X. That's a lot of data to push out to update your users. And I would have really liked to have seen Apple release a targeted patch that just addressed the SSL issue, and also have released it at the exact same time they released it for iOS, so there wasn't a gap in protection across the different types of operating systems that they provide.
Right, yeah, that would have been good.
Well, hindsight's 2020 so hopefully if this happens in the future, they'll learn from the mistakes of the past.
Absolutely, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us.
It's a pleasure.
And I'd love to see what Webroot's doing in the future. Hopefully they're helping companies become more secure.
That's our goal. We want to make the world a far secure place, and if we look at the past, every year it seems that the problem is getting worse, and we're really here to change that trend and make the problem getting better.
Right. Cybersecurity is what it's all about.
Indeed.
All right, Grayson, thank you so much for speaking with us.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Everyone at home, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter so you don't miss any of the interviews we're doing here at RSA 2014 in San Francisco. I'm Alicia Webb. Thank you for watching.
SecureNinjaTV is brought to you by SecureNinja.com, a world leader in cybersecurity training and certification. Our master instructors will help build you into a highly skilled and marketable security professional. Secure Ninja, forging cybersecurity experts.